is Notsam Wrestling.
Introducing your host from New York, here is Sam Roberts.
Well, how are you adjusting as a fan, watching this new world of wrestling that we're in? What do you think of audience-free wrestling in general?
Well, as somebody who's always said that the biggest threat to wrestling has been wrestling fans, I love it. I'm like, keep fans away from the shows as long as possible. Like, I mean, granted, obviously, there's a core of fans that I'm referring to when I say wrestling fans are the worst thing that happened to wrestling in a long time. But, you know, as a fan that is, you know, I'm coming from the creative standpoint and being somebody who's been there and getting the opportunity to watch a lot of these great writers work without the distractions of live crowds and people trying to get them over and being in like certain situations that are controlled so you can see like the nuances of, you know, voice inflection and not having to yell everything into a crowd and you shut up Montreal and all this other shit. Like, you don't got to do any of that. It's like the reason why so many of the promos were sold so well for WrestleMania was that there wasn't a lot of the best promos had no yelling, wasn't no name calling. It was, you could hear it in their voice. You could see it in their eyes. You could really see the difference between the haves and the have-nots of the people who do this for a living. And when you see guys like Randy Orton, Edge, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, some of the best talkers, Becky Lynch, some of the best talkers that there has ever been in wrestling, and why they're so good at what they do. Being able to do this night in, night out, every arena, every city, every week. And now you put them in a controlled environment that could be edited, that doesn't have a crowd. You really see how good these people are outside of just their physical capabilities. Like, these are people like, you know, Edge obviously has his acting chops from, you know, the time he's taken away from the ring. And Randy Orton's been a natural this entire time. He sold an entire program just talking. I don't think he wrestled a single match from January to April. And, you know, and it's special to me. Like, and I'm really enjoying it. I know I'm alone in this. And, you know, in the same way, and I said this on my podcast earlier this week, it's really separated the talent level from AEW and WWE to me because, you know, granted, yeah, Cody's going to be fine. The Young Bucks will be fine. You know, a lot of these guys will be fine. But now you're starting to see, you know, why the Performance Center was so groundbreaking, because a lot of these people have been practicing in front of these controlled environments for years before they were even brought up to television. And now you see, okay, well, is AEW Dynamite a great show, or are their fans just fucking insane and hype up everything? Granted, there's something to love. There's something great to love about that. Just seeing the intensity and the passion of AEW fans. Like, that's fun to me. I love seeing that. But stripping all that away, all the bells and whistles now, you can really see the difference between the talent on both sides of those companies. So me, I love it. I think it's been really fun to watch and really enjoyable.
Yeah, I think that, number one, I hope that what we take away from this is that we don't need to do all these promos in the ring. That we can do, like, that we can figure out. I think that a lot of people should be doing promos. Let's figure out how to not get them in front of an audience, because you're right. Like, the promos leading up to WrestleMania, first it was Edge and Orton, and you were like, oh my God, like, they were already having promos of their careers when Raw was still in front of an audience. But when they got to the Performance Center, the promos got better. And then you look at Rollins, and Rollins has the best promo that he's had in 2 years, easy, against Kevin Owens. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, like, that promo was so good, it's going to hurt Kevin Owens. And then Kevin Owens comes back the next week and delivers his promo. And I'm like, oh my God. And then when I really know that this is not a fluke, and when I really know that this is not just like, okay, well, those are 4 of the best dudes ever, like, yeah, they're going to do good promos. Sonya
Deville.
Come on, you turn on SmackDown this week.
Deville. completely bodies Friday Night SmackDown. And I'm just like, yo, this is it. Like, this is it right here. Like, granted, when things go back to normal, obviously, I'm going to love it when fans are back together and back in arenas and all that type of stuff. But it's really going to separate the talent gap from so many people. Like, I'm sitting here compelled by a promo by Sonya Deville. I'm not saying nothing wrong with Sonya Deville. She's super talented. But I just never thought I would get to that point.
Right.
And seeing her just, the Mandy and Otis storyline, really fun storyline, really got to sink my teeth into it. Great stuff. And now we're seeing this whole side of like the B characters of that storyline. And now it's like, holy crap. Now I want to see Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville go at it. Whereas a couple of weeks ago, I really did it.
And look, I mean, WWE has been in this spot where as much as the women's revolution has been successful, right? And as much as you get this main event for a WrestleMania that deserves to be a main event, it's not a politically correct thing. And you get stars like Becky Lynch and Charlotte and everybody else that's like legitimate stars that are just as big, if not bigger, than every guy on the roster. But with that moment, to me, I still feel like WWE is hurting when it comes to female rivalries that are not based on a title. Storyline rivalries between two women with no title that's just a grudge match. Like, those are super, super rare. And I feel like you're right that the audience now, and this thing could have gotten stale, by the way. We've got our moment. We had Mandy and Otis together at WrestleMania. You can end on it. That's the it was a perfect moment. By the way, that moment is one of those moments where if you did do it in front of an audience, stadium would have collapsed. It would have been
literally
so huge.
next to Drew winning the title. Yeah, that was the next moment where I was like, God, that really deserved 80,000 people going crazy. That really did it.
But I don't think, and I think Sonya Deville's this amazing talent. I don't think that segment would have been anywhere near as successful as it was in front of an audience. I don't think an audience would have allowed it to happen. I don't think an audience would have given Sonya Deville the time.
Sam, they're terrible. This is like you would have got a bunch of what chants.
Yep.
You would have got people not reacting. You would have had. I mean, it affects the talent too. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, they're not going to deliver it as well because you can't change voice inflections. You can't talk like this and then. You know what I mean? Like, you can't like change levels to show certain intensity or show regret or show like the whole way she was talking that whole time. Obviously you knew that the swerve was coming, but you can't pull that off with a live crowd because. Just the science of it, the noise, the crowd understood. And you said it earlier, now I really hope that the WWE and AEW focus a lot of their promos either backstage or days in advance. Like, I know I poo-pooed on a lot of the AEW promos, but I think Jericho's been killing it with like the bubbly brunch and like all this other stuff. Like, I think that's been great. But, now it's really started to hone in on what really makes people want to watch you wrestle.
Yeah.
And it's these promos, and it's being able to let people in emotionally. And it's going to help so many storylines because at the end of the day, like, and this is just me, like, I could be totally off base here, but like, I really don't care who's really champion right now. I mean, like, there's not really. I mean, Drew's got the title, but I don't want to see anybody else take it off him. Like, and Braun, whatever. Like, that's great, and the titles are important. But what gets people coming back is those stories, like you said, that aren't necessarily tied to a title. That has people wanting to see somebody elevate, see somebody get their comeuppance, see somebody, go at it for the next week or two, because at the end, and just as a matter of circumstance, there's not a whole lot of talent pool to play with right now. So you're going to see a lot of matches over and over again, or certain variations of matches with the same people. How are you going to keep me interested? And now with this, unforced circumstance, this is how they've reacted to it, and I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I don't even mind, I don't mind so much airing old matches. I don't mind going to tape and like showing a full match from a pay-per-view. I loved, for instance, my favorite one they did was when they put on the 2015, I want to say, Royal Rumble triple threat between Seth, Cena, and Brock, because that's one
best triple threat match ever.
nobody talks about it. People have kind of forgotten that it happened. Like, and I thought it was. I remember I was there. You were probably there too. It was great. It was so good. But I think some of that stuff is good. And as much as I think us hardcores were going like, are we really going to sit through a 90-minute, a 2-hour Royal Rumble match here on television? I can't tell you how many people talk to me that aren't, hardcore wrestling fans, but know enough and are entertained by it that were like, hey, that was really cool that I got to see the Royal Rumble last night. I liked that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so if you're putting on some pre-tape matches that are, that are older, like archive matches, but we know there's going to be some money promos coming here that are going to lead us to a pay-per-view, and we know at the pay-per-view there's going to be stuff, right? Like, we already know. I think it's amazing because I wasn't sure how the fans were going to react. But when they announced, because I had read on the internet that they were setting up a ring on the roof of Titan Towers. And I was like, hell yes. Because I remember as a kid when they put the ring on the roof for the Raw intro. And I was like, oh, God, like years. I was like, wow, I wish I was there. I wish I could have seen it. I want to watch Raw on the roof of this building. And I was like, oh, they must be filming like a really cool intro or something like that. And then when they announced that the Money in the Bank ladder match was going to be like the Raid, and they were going to have to fight all the way up the building and then go on the roof, like I was freaking out going like, that's amazing. And then I looked at Twitter, and generally it was an overall, I would say, positive response. And I think that that's because of how good the cinematic stuff at WrestleMania was. But I think people got super excited about the fact that, okay, we're not going to just watch a ladder match in the Performance Center. We're going to see something different. Yeah,
I think as good as the triple threat ladder match at WrestleMania was, and I talked to Chris Van Vliet, who did my podcast earlier today. He was like, I talked to Morrison, and it's like, yo, it hurts 10 times as more to go through a ladder when there's not 80,000 people screaming.
Yeah, that's actually, it's funny because like when I was watching it, that was my reaction to it. I was like, there's something about, like, I watched that going, if this was in front of an audience, it would be an amazing ladder match. Right. But there's something about just watching a ladder match without an audience where you go, why are these guys doing this? They shouldn't do it. Why are you doing that?
Like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Like, why? This hurts. This hurts me watching you.
Yeah.
I think, this is one of the first things that I've seen in a while announced by WWE ahead of time, that even the snarkiest of the most curmudgeonous internet fans were like, this is going to be cool. This is like, it feels like Die Hard with like wrestling twist to it. You know what I mean? Like you're fighting up to the top of the building, and you said it, like the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse match were so well received. Now it was like, as soon as that was done, I was like, wow, okay. That was cool. Mm-hmm. Now they know they can pull that off. And now they know they can pull that off to a lot of critical reception. People are going to watch it. And, I think the talent was excited for it too. Now they're like, oh, man, I want to do a Firefly Funhouse match. I want to do a Boneyard match. I want to see Undertaker staying in a Boneyard match or anything.
Because you don't have to take any bumps.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it preserves careers. Like, it's entertaining. Like, you can kind of like, it can be like this weird sort of canon world that doesn't necessarily exist in like the four sides of the ring inside a TV studio type of thing. Like, it's like, okay, AJ Styles is just like dead for now, right? Like, this is the thing. And John Cena just is kind of like floating in like imaginary space right now. And it all makes sense because wrestling's already crazy.
Right.
Wrestling's already like this like weird, wacky world that only exists to us like maniacs that like watch it and love it for a living. Now it's like, okay, you can actually advance storylines like this now. Like now you're doing the Money in the Bank ladder match. And maybe, and I saw like the poster, like, are they going to do like the men's and women match at the same time? Because it was like, it's two briefcases. I'm like, oh, are they going to do it? Like, is it going to be like some World War III thing from WCW where like
two rings, one roof.
Yeah, like, I'm legitimately intrigued, and for as many like film and TV guys that they hire, that are, that have done some like, legit stuff, like legit, like Emmy-winning stuff. Why not put them to work to do that? Like, this is what you hire them for. Like, you wanted Hollywood people, you wanted TV people, you wanted folks that have this sort of background. Why not let them get a little crazy and like make your own version of Die Hard with wrestling in it? And, I'm super excited. And I'm glad we don't have to wait like a whole nother year for like one of these like gimmick cinematic matches, because that was another one of my fears. I'm like, okay, they're only doing this because it's WrestleMania. I was like, oh no, they're going to be doing this now, which is really fun.
And it's interesting because they haven't been that great in the past. Like remember when like Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton had their match, and it was just like it didn't hit. You're like, this is just
it was like the sister. They put like the house on fire, and he did like the pose, and it was like
and even when the New Day had that 6-man with the Wyatt family at the Wyatt farm, it wasn't like horrible, but it was just like it was just kind of there.
It didn't hit. And I would definitely say that I think they got Jeremy Barash back there, who was a big part of the Final Deletion. TNA, and I think that helps a lot. And on top of that, like, we've kind of been conditioned to see these type of things and not feel like it's so out of the ordinary now. You know what I mean? Like Lucha Underground, a lot of, Shane, Swerve Scott, Ricochet, a lot of these guys have come out of Lucha Underground and done some great stuff out of there. MVP as well. You got, the stuff that was Matt Hardy and the Final Deletion and House Hardy and all that type of stuff. Like, we're conditioned to like cool off-site wrestling stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, okay, what if you could do that with the same people who made that really work with a WWE budget? Like, there's no reason why it shouldn't work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, obviously, I mean, I know they're gonna whiff one day. You know, I mean, they're 2 for 2 right now. Like, and I guess like 2 for 3 if you count like the Gargano, Ciampa stuff, which was like not necessarily super cinematic, but a little different pre-tape, whatever.
Yeah.
But there's no reason for it not to work now, because you're taking all the creativity of what made these things work on a shoestring budget, and now you're putting billionaire bucks behind it. So we'll see, man. I'm really excited for it.
It's interesting that you say that about having the 2 matches going on at the same time, because it's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, so not even just in terms of, well, if you already smashed this building up, what are you going to do when you have to do another match in it? Just in terms of audience appetite. Like, it would be so difficult, I find. Like, it already, right, when they did the Boneyard match, and people were like, people literally, I spoke to people that were like, that was the Undertaker's best WrestleMania match. And I'm like,
since WrestleMania 25.
That's what I said. I'm like, what about WrestleMania? What about Shawn Michaels? Like, it was literally the greatest match of all time.
That was outside of that match.
Yeah.
That was the best use of the Undertaker I've seen in God knows how long. Like, granted, it was a WrestleMania 25 and 26, great matches.
Yes.
Even 28, great match, Hell in a Cell, fantastic match. But an actual use of a guy that you only have, like, it's not like, you can have other wrestlers can give you great matches like that. But you have a guy who we have conditioned our brains enough to be like, okay, he's an undead mortician who's a biker and married and
loves tigers.
And has tigers and all that stuff. Like, we condition our brain enough for that stuff just because it's the Undertaker. So you have this great, you got this great chess piece that you can use for this great technology. And now you're looking at all of these old timers and these Hall of Famers who aren't necessarily, you don't necessarily want to see take a bump, but you'd be interested in watching them, like,
you're still
a part of television somehow.
You're still in love with the characters.
Yes.
Like, when you can figure out an environment where you can utilize the character without making, because I think that's the thing with the Undertaker, right? Nobody is sick of the Undertaker character, and if you are sick of the Undertaker character, you're nobody to speak to. Like, you're just
You're kidding yourself.
yeah. Nobody's sick.
Come in as soon as you hear the gong and the slow walk out, you're sold.
So right, nobody's sick of the Undertaker character. I think it's when people get upset about Undertaker matches because they lose sight of the character and they start worrying about the health of the man. So when you can figure out a way of presenting matches where you're just utilizing the character really and not the man at all, then I think people can get wrapped up in it in a whole different way. I think that the thing about that Boneyard match was expectations were low, I think. I mean, just based on the name. When it hit that hard, people were like, okay, that was amazing. Expectations just went through the roof for Firefly Funhouse, and there's no way they're going to be able to follow it. And then the Firefly Funhouse, for me anyway, hit so hard. I'm sitting there watching Drew and Brock, and I'm watching Drew had his moment, and I go, so John Cena is Hogan.
I'm sitting there watching that. I'm just like, this is like, if you ever need to express to somebody why pro wrestling is art.
Yeah.
Like, I can literally show them that and be like, yo, this 10 minutes tells the entire story arc of John Cena. It's almost like a tribute to him, but like, it was brilliant. It was great.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I'm watching the Boneyard match, and I'm like, if I'm Sting right now, how badly do I want to just get a nice little rewrite? Like, there's still the one Undertaker match that we haven't seen yet. We know he wants to go out with it, but he wants to do one more match. We know he's hurt, and we don't want him to seriously hurt himself, so we don't want it to be hard to watch. Like, if I'm Vince, if I'm any of those guys, WrestleMania 37 in Hollywood, Los Angeles, whatever, I am pulling out the Brinks truck to make Undertaker Sting be the last thing that you see in Hollywood for WrestleMania. Like,
and it's in Hollywood, so you got the cinematic tie-in. You could do it in a crow's nest match instead of a boneyard match, whatever you want to call it. Just make it equally as cool.
And I also want a 10 Fast, 10 Furious match between The Rock and John Cena, where they just like chase each other in sports cars.
Awesome. I love it.
And is like, that's what I want.
I love it.
Lifetime.
So